Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Just a quick little video for you on a frame repair I came up with for the Litehawk Brute, also known as your wltoys L959, L969, L202, Litehawk Blast, probably a few others sharing this exact same frame. Anyways, so Brute's been down for quite a while. It's been sitting on the shelf for months, and I finally decided last night, let's see if I can buckshoe this thing back together and get it running until I can, order some parts. I could have ordered parts, hundreds of times already. I just never bothered. I've got other toys to play with and, priorities, and this just wasn't one of them, And so anyways, I finally decided last night to start working on this thing and did the repairs. And I made a set of little plates here, and because too many crashes, what's going to happen is you're going to break this big plate in here, and unfortunately the only way to fix that generally is to order a new one. Now you can order your parts in from China. It takes you a couple weeks. Okay, no big deal if you got other toys to play with, right? But if you don't want to wait for the new part, or while you're waiting for the new part, you can do a little repair on the frame, which I've done. Now this is just a plate, and it is a cover plate, but it's also a very critical cover plate, because without it, your steering is not going to stay in the car. This plate has two little pinholes that lock into two pins that hold your steering mechanism in place. Okay, plus there's two screws up in the front. So you've got to be able to have that held down, and of course there's the six at the back end here that hold the whole unit in place. So you need to make sure that that plate stays intact. Now I thoroughly abused this machine, and I thought, something's going to give eventually, and something finally did, and that's fine, no big deal, I don't care. It's only a little, I think it's a cheap part anyways. I haven't even priced it out, but it's cheap, right? So I got these dividers that come with parts cases and stuff that you buy, and I just grabbed one of these dividers here, and I don't use these dividers very often. Let me just zoom out. So these are the dividers. I don't use them very often. I think they're junk. Even if you get a case from the dollar store, they'll come with the same ones with some of their cases. And so they're pretty handy for doing a little bit of body work. So what you got to do is you've got to cut the rounded edge. I'll just zoom back out. You got to cut this rounded edge off so it's flat, and then cut yourself a piece that's about roughly the width of the frame plate itself. And you're going to need two of them, of course, because you've got to do one on each side, especially if both sides gave, which generally they would. Because I don't think it's going to happen where you break one and not the other side. So, you'll probably be making two of them. And you're going to need to notch, for sure, the one out, but I notched both of mine out. And actually, yes, you will have to notch both sides out. So, but you need to notch it so that you can steer the car, because if you don't, it's going to be too wide, and it's going to reduce your steering, and it's going to bugger your servo. So you got to notch it. Now mine just barely misses by very, very small amount. Okay, and then on the other side I still have plenty of space left. So pretty easy to do. As far as the drill bit goes, let me see the size that I used here, so I can tell you exactly what you're going to need. You will need a 5/64 drill bit, which is going to allow you for a little bit of threading, to go through and really make that a good snug connection. So it's just a little bit smaller hole than the diameter screw. So the screw is a little bit bigger than the diameter of the hole. So once you drill your first hole in your plate, you're going to put this screw in first, get this evened up, eyeball it, see what's left for access, and cut off the excess, okay, so that you can get this hole done. Now what I did was to drill my second hole, because this is see-through plastic, which is the best. Line it up where you need it. Take your drill and just gently drill in, because there are threads down below, so you just want to drill the surface of this, okay? And then you can move it aside, finish your drilling, all right? And then zap your screw in there, mark a little line, take it out, zip it across, snip, there goes your excess. And then you take the whole unit out and cut your notches so that you don't mess this area up. It's pretty simple and easy to do, very straightforward. So, you know, just giving you that visual alone, you know what you're looking at that you need to do, okay? And it has to look like that on both sides. So make sure you test your notches too once you bolt it down. Make sure that, you know, you've already put your steering all the way across this way first. Then put your plate in, make sure that it's okay. If not, fine-tune your notch. The other side must also be notched. And that is going to give you a very strong repair job. So while you're waiting for your replacement parts to come in, you can still play with your toy. Now as far as other things go, this thing's been pretty good to me. You know, I haven't broke any suspension. This one I left with stock suspension. I didn't mod it with hobby grade suspension like I did with my buggy. So this is pretty much just a stock machine. The only addition I've made was to the receiver box. This thing has been totally glued back together. I decided to go a little further into the whole waterproofing thing to try it out. They've been starting to waterproof the receivers now. In these things from Litehawk as well as from China, and they messed up royally in that they did not do the actual receiver itself inside the box. So if it still gets water inside, it's going to knock your box offline for a few days. So I took mine apart, dried it all out really good, and then sealed it up with hot glue in the entire receiver where the antenna is, and slapped it all back together. And the way this box came apart, I had to crazy glue and hot glue it all. But then I went further, I hot glued all the wires on top, made sure, and I was already, my light pod connections were already glued from the factory. It's like useless. So I just reinforced everything and zipped her in there. So my plug can still come in and out here. So I would call this fairly well waterproofed. They are waterproofing servos now. I took this one apart and it was full of glue sealant, but it's still not waterproof at the back end. So I wouldn't trust the servo 100%. So splashing through puddles is probably going to be okay. It shouldn't be a big deal, but I wouldn't try submerging the car, because then I guarantee you're going to toast your servo and you'll probably take your speed controller with it. But the one mod I tried here is a heat sink. This is actually off of an old ESC from way back, and it has this silicone stuff in it that fits over the heat sinks. So I thought, yeah, it looks pretty cool, and let's see how well it works to keep things cool. Because I want to be able to pin the living daylights out of this thing constantly and not toast the ESC, because these ESC receiver boxes do get very hot. And if you get them too hot, you can fry the circuits that run across the backside here. There's 4 of them, and they actually control your forward and your reverse. Okay, and so without them, you're pooched. You ain't driving. So I do a lot of pinning as it is, but I know enough to do cool down runs for a while before doing it again. And so far, this box has not let me down. This box has been great. I've tortured it really well. Well, now I want to take it to the next level. I want to totally torture the box, but I want to do it with a heatsink on there and see if this heatsink is going to work well enough with its silicone thermo stuff to keep things cool enough without toasting anything. And if it does blow, I don't care. It's $8, you know, buy a new one. So anyways, that's our repair for our frame, plus a little bit of extra info for you guys. So just another little bit of a look here for you, so you know what you got to do to make that repair. And that'll get you up and running, at least until you get your new parts in. You know, I wouldn't consider it a permanent fix, but it's a darn good one in the meantime. So thanks for watching. Catch you on the video. As always, please leave your comments, feel free, and your questions, and I'll do the best I can to answer them. Thanks.